But we are gearing up for demolition to begin in January. So really excited to fence the site after the holidays and begin knocking down some buildings. And that's about it. Thank you.
Hey, Jenny, I was wondering, where are all your workers going to be parking? Are you able to park them on site?
We are, yes, we're able to park them on the phase 2 site. So we're keeping the Bed Bath and Beyond building as a construction office and all of that surface parking. So we'll be parking there.
Great. And then down the road, you're going to share with us how you're going to do phase 2. I know it'll be a while, but
Yeah.
just in terms of parking, you don't have to talk about it now, but we
Yeah.
do want to make sure that that's addressed.
100%. Yes.
Richard, do they file the parking plan with you like all the other developments? Since they're part of the since we kind of brought them into the CCN zoning?
No, the parking plans we get are just with the businesses within the bid, for any building within the bid. We wouldn't get it for Cherry Creek West.
Okay. And that might be something, as we go along that I think the city would probably be asking for that too. So, but we'll continue to follow that. But thank you, Jenny, very much. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
I'd like, is that all questions? Any other questions on Cherry Creek West? Okay, I would like to see if, yeah, Jamie, I still don't see that anybody from Councilwoman Sawyer's office is here, but I'd like to turn it over for sort of a debrief on the GID. So Jamie, take it away.
Sure. Can you hear me okay? All right. Well, good to see all of you. And as I'm sure you all have heard, received the information on from the council office, we decided last Friday, communications went out Monday, to suspend the JID kind of feasibility study community outreach effort. As you know, this has been a challenging conversation throughout, and we had a pretty tough community meeting in Cherry Creek North last week. We also did have a community meeting in Cherry Creek East that I think for the most part was pretty solid, but not necessarily a tremendous amount of support. And then we unexpectedly had our meeting space canceled for outreach in the Triangle without much explanation at the last minute. And so, I just sort of stepped back and kind of recognizing I think a lot of the negativity that was permeating throughout the study area. It just wasn't, there was no reasonable pathway forward for this right now, and I don't want to cause any other heartburn or challenges within the neighborhood. So some of you may have seen CBS did a piece. They were contacted by the Stop the JID campaign, but they did reach out to me to ask for my take and comment on it, and I hopefully did a good job representing kind of in terms of a diplomatic approach of that, I see my work in helping to form these JIDs as providing community tools and resources to determine whether they want it or not. And I think at the end of the day, I never want to see divisiveness in a community, and I saw just a really heartbreaking amount of it. And that was unfortunate, and neighbor on neighbor, neighbor to neighbor, not great what I saw at Cherry Creek North in terms of how folks were interacting with each other. So I didn't want that to continue. I think the upside of it is, we gleaned a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of detailed information about some of the concerns in various parts of the neighborhood. And I'm going to try to make lemonade out of lemons, and pulling that all together into an analysis and summary with some numbers and details behind it that will live on the website that Councilwoman Sawyer's office has created. So we already updated that website just to let people know the feasibility study has ended and leave up just some basic information. I'm working on wrapping up that report, hopefully tomorrow, to get it posted by Friday on the website. And that will at least serve as a guide for the councilwoman to see if there are other things that can be done to achieve and accomplish addressing some of the issues raised in different parts of the neighborhood. And also as a leave behind, in case there is any time in the future a desire to revisit the JID conversation by a group of stakeholders, that the starting point is there. So I'll just leave it at that. And I'm happy to take any questions or anything, but that is where we are at this moment. We did call off the Triangle meeting and the Cherry Creek North bid residents meeting this week. They were supposed to happen tonight and tomorrow night. So we went ahead and canceled those. And one other comment I'll say, on the day after the Cherry Creek North session, I actually got called by a resident of Cherry Creek North who attended and was very upset that we were ending the study, had been at the session and said was there with a bunch of neighbors who were very interested in the JID for their particular block and wondered how it could continue. So I said, well, it will not continue in its current form, but we are happy to provide you with all the information and knowledge in the case that you want to try to create some sort of grassroots effort in part of the community. I do not know where this person lives, but he indicated that he and a bunch of neighbors were there in sort of solidarity and interest of forming the JID. So it wasn't all for naught. I think there was a lot of interested parties and people, and hopefully the leave behind will provide some data that will kind of continue to spur conversations about how to continue to improve the neighborhood as a whole. So now I will shut up. Leave it there.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I'll ask maybe Tracy or Linda, if you guys, does anybody want to chime in on anything? If you don't want to, that's fine too.
No, thanks, Lou, for the opportunity. Just wanted to thank Jamie for trying to, persevere. I know the difficulty of trying to discuss a JIT to a community because it really does have a lot of financial impact on the residents. And generally, I think it has a lot to do with the environment and the time that we are in, and that we just don't have sort of the economic stability that we had previously enjoyed. And so it probably the messaging for a JIT at this moment just wasn't really going to win a lot of support. And that's what I saw for sure in Cherry Creek East. And so I know that's got to be hard when you're trying to deliver the message that there is some benefit, obviously, to having a JIT, because we do have them in different parts of the city, in different parts of this of Denver, as well as all across the country. So just want to thank you for your hard work and persevering.
Thank you.
Same thing from Cherry Creek North. Jamie, you guys did a Herculean effort trying to bring people together, and I don't think any of us expected the outrage that we saw on Tuesday night. In fact, our board even met this Sunday trying to debrief and see how we move forward to bring the community together to avoid the divisiveness that is really currently and bubbling along. But this week we had two different events in the community, newcomers and a book club. And to point you made earlier, Jamie, people reached out and said, we wanted solutions, we wanted answers, and we didn't get them, but we're in full support of the board. We've got your backs, and let's move forward. So it was a painful week, and we're still trying to work our way through it, but we will come out on the other side.
Great. Thanks, Linda.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Thank you. I know there was a subgroup of people on the steering committee that tried to, at least determine whether it, how and whether it should come out to the neighborhoods. And I think we all said, take it to the people. Let the people weigh in and see what they say and ask them about the possible solutions to the complaints we've heard. And as Linda said, we've all talked about it, and we did put out a statement from our board to our Cherry Creek North. I don't know if anybody received it here who's not with Cherry Creek North, but basically we said we understand right now the problems are not great enough in a perception of the residents to want to find solutions that they would want to pay for. And that might come up some other time, but it probably not in my lifetime. So, or at least my lifetime will end way sooner than it should if it does again. So anyway, I'll add my thanks to Jamie, and especially, even though she's not here, to Councilwoman Sawyer, because while she is going to have her survey coming out again, as she does every year, and she gets 311 calls from people all the time with problems, people speeding, running stop signs, traffic control, safety concerns, those things. So thank her when you see her for trying to bring the neighborhood, the people, an opportunity to find solutions. They don't want it. That's fine. This is a people resident process. And so when those problems are great enough, and Jamie has helped neighborhoods address problems that they perceived in their neighborhood through this JID process, maybe we'll revisit that at some time. But we did propose there might be other ways for neighbors to come together to address perceived problems. So let's hope we can all come together and keep working, keep advocating for Cherry Creek as an area, and go forth and conquer. So thanks to Councilwoman Sawyer for taking part of her budget and a lot of time. And frankly, she got beat up so bad, and undeservedly, in my opinion, because she was just trying to do the right thing to bring possible solutions to the people. So, but she understands it. We all understand it. We're moving forward. And this will probably be the last time Jamie will have to come to these meetings. So let's give her a wave and thank her for coming. And you don't even have to stay anymore, Jamie, if you don't want to.
Thank you, Lou. And thanks to so many of you. And also, like, the table facilitators, many of you signed up to do that and took a hit for that. I recognize at the community meetings for just appearing that you were in any way supportive of the effort. So there were a lot of community members that stepped up. This work is hard. I leave everything on the table, right? And there's no judgment or whatever. I'm glad to hear that there's efforts underway to kind of reknit the community back together, because at the end of the day, the last thing we need on a hyper-local level is for everybody living next door to each other to be angry at each other. So hopefully I can also share some solutions in my final report that will help you all find some pathways to work together going forward. So thanks for the opportunity to do it and be here. And I hope to see you around the neighborhood.
Bye, Jamie. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, moving on, unless somebody else has anything they want to say, but seeing no hands up, we'll move along. I'd like to welcome a very well-known character, friend, developer, and old-time steering committee supporter, Randy Nichols, to this meeting. Randy was one of the first developers in Cherry Creek East. He did the Manor Homes project. He supported the community. He stepped up and I think led the steering committee at one point in time. He has done so much to help us reimagine Cherry Creek North, including Clayton Lane and other projects. So and now he's been working here so long that his son has grown up and has joined his team. So Randy, Daniel, and their consultant, Peter Wall, welcome. Thank you guys for being here. Why don't you let me know, raise your hand if you're the one who's gonna run the show, and I will make you a co-host.
I think Daniel's running the
It's gonna
show.
be me. I have the presentation, Lou. So if you want to make me a co-host, that would be great.
What, yeah, okay, I can, okay, Peter's a co-host and I'll go ahead and make Daniel one too, just in case.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, with that, I will turn it over to them and they will discuss the acquisition of the dance parcel and their possible plans. And of course, they will be coming for rezoning. So thank you again for being here, guys, and I'll turn it over to you.
Peter, do you want to start us off?
Sure. No, thank you everyone for the time. Really appreciate it. I am Peter Wall and have a local government affairs consulting company called Wall Kane Consulting. My better half, Austin Kane, is the other part of the partnership. We're not the most creative in naming, but specialize predominantly in working on land use and development projects, mainly in Denver, but working to help developers through the entitlement process. And a really big piece, a component of that that's important to us is the community engagement side of the world, and making sure that we are being really good listeners and thoughtful and good collaborators throughout the process. And one of the reasons we're here today is really important to talk to you all, given all of your work in Cherry Creek and the passion that you have for the area. So thank you very much for the time. I'll be running through not a lot of slides, just a few slides after I turn it back over to Daniel and Randy to just talk a little bit more about Nichols Partnership and then how they came to acquire the property.
Cool. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, I think when Clayton Lane was being built, I was like 11 years old. So I've been growing up in Cherry Creek since I was 3 or 4, something along those lines. And it's really special to be able to potentially do a project there now. And working with my dad has been an amazing experience. So, as Peter said, Daniel Nichols with Nichols Partnership. I joined my dad in business about God, it's been almost 10 years now, 7 years now, something along those lines, and it's been incredible. And been doing stuff kind of around Colorado and then a little bit in California, and we happened to come into connection with the dance studio property. It was actually through a friend of a friend we met the owners. If you all know Stephanie, and Stephanie and I become really good friends over the last couple of years. And kind of she's looking to move to the next chapter. And in the beginning, I was helping her with the consulting on kind of what she should do and what's the best for her and for her business and for the land. And it kind of ended up with, well, I think they want to sell it. And as developers and someone who lives close by and something, we obviously love Cherry Creek, we decided well, we'd love to kind of help you through that process and we'll put in our bid. And if it's the best, great. But at the end of the day, hopefully you get what's best for you and what's best for your company. And it ended up being us that actually it worked out the best for them. So we purchased the property a little over a year ago, and have kind of been trying to figure out what we want to do with the property since then. In the meantime, it's great. I'm happy to report that Stephanie's still going to be there until at least we break ground, and she's happy to be there. We've offered her, free rent on the property so that she can continue to teach all the children, continue to teach dance to all the children. I have a lot of friends whose kids still go there, and obviously it's a staple of Cherry Creek, and that was really important to us to keep her in the space. And as we go through this whole rezone process and an eventual, hopefully, permit process as well. So, Nichols Partnership, as Peter said, we've been around for a long time now. Randy has been around for a long time now. Built most of Clayton Lane, all of Clayton Lane, one of the projects we've been working on, and community engagement was a big part of that. As he said, he's been on this. As Lou said, he's been on the steering committee. And as a result of him being he lives in Cherry Creek. I live in Wash Park, walking distance from Cherry Creek. Community engagement was a big, very important part of this whole process. So we ended up hiring Peter and Austin to help with that. And we've reached out to the neighborhood association. We've reached out to the bid. we've reached out to the neighbors personally, and obviously you all now as well, and really want to make sure that we're going to build something that works for everybody. Because we do love Cherry Creek, and it's important that what we build adds to the value of Cherry Creek and the beauty of Cherry Creek. So we've hired SAR, Shears Atkins Rockmore, who've done stuff down there. Chris Shears, if you all know him, is a amazing architect, amazing human being, really involved in a lot of the different neighborhood and community organizations around Colorado. And we hired him because we know that he knows what it takes to get something like this done in a way that works for everybody as opposed to just the developer. So we're really excited to be working with him again. We've used him on a lot of our different projects. So and then as we kind of move through this, and Peter will show you in our proposal, obviously, in the very beginning stages and still going through the rezone process, but at the end of the day, I think our hope is to be able to create some residential, for sale residential for the area. There's a lot of obviously office, but I think for sale for us was important to bring more people to live in Cherry Creek permanently and add to the community. So that's our thought right now and our hope right now, depending on what happens as we go through the rezone process and the design process. But just to let you all know that that's kind of our direction. So I'm going to turn it over to Randy real quick, and he can say hi and talk about his history in Cherry Creek and his involvement in the steering committee back in the day, and why we think it was important for us to at least meet you all and present kind of what we were going to be working on.
Thanks, Daniel. This is kind of like back in time from 30 years ago, I think. I was a member of the Cherry Creek East Neighborhood Association, and they elected me to be the representative to the steering committee and somewhere in the middle to late 1990s. And the thing that's completely shocking to me is Alan, Bob, and Meredith were there when I was there, and they're still here. So, Alan, in addition to your Historic Denver Award, you should be getting the 30-year veteran of the steering committee award along with Bob and Meredith. So congratulations on that. But it's safe to say that we are extremely excited to be involved in the neighborhood again. We would have liked to have been involved all along, but nobody could afford to beat out Matt Joblin in his land pricing. So everybody else was taking second place to what Matt was doing. But and Matt's a very good friend and a partner, and I think he's doing wonderful things for Cherry Creek North. So really happy with what's happening. But now we're back to being able to contribute again. The dance site is super cool, location, and has all the right characteristics for what the market is looking for right now. So can't wait to be involved. Thank you, Lou, for including us in this meeting, and look forward to seeing everybody else in the steering committee and getting to know them over the next 6 months or so. Thanks, Daniel.
Awesome. All right, Pete, do you want to pull up the presentation real quick and kind of run through it high level? And then if there's any questions, we'd love to.
Yep, I will be short and sweet. Make sure we get you all out of here in a reasonable time. So I think you are pretty familiar with where the site is, but just wanted to start out with an aerial just to kind of reframe the site location. So located on 3rd Avenue, just to the north of 3rd Avenue and just to the west of Clayton Street. think you all are probably pretty familiar with what it looks like, but again, just a couple of visuals to make sure that we orient you on the site that we're talking about and the buildings that we're talking about redeveloping. And then wanted to provide you all with just an idea of the existing zoning in the neighborhood. All of the pink that you will see to the north of 4th, if you can see my cursor here, all of that is zoned in the new zoning code, in that all that Cherry Creek North zoning that you all worked very hard to craft. All of those properties that are to the west of us and to the east of us are all zoned that CCN 4-story zone district. And the Cherry Creek Dance property that's outlined here in yellow, where my cursor is an old Cherry Creek North zoning, and then it's got a couple of conditions on it. So really the crux of our request is to rezone the property to what you see to the west of us and what you see to the east of us, to the north of 3rd Avenue, and rezone it from that old Cherry Creek North zoning to the new Cherry Creek North zoning. As I mentioned, there's a couple of kind of odd conditions on the property, and this was really in our first meeting and conversation with Lou. It's great to have her because she gave us some really kind of helpful background and feedback and color on when this property was rezoned back in 2007, what Cherry Creek Dance was ultimately kind of going for and looking for, and some of these conditions that are on the property kind of speak to an outdoor area that Cherry Creek Dance, I think, was looking to have tables and chairs so that they could have dancing outside potentially, or have an outdoor reprieve area where folks could go and spend time. So that area 1 that you see that's highlighted in yellow, that's the first condition on the property. That area is about 105 feet long. It's 29 feet going north to south. And as you'll see, that's the language on the right-hand side there is really the language that was codified that says what you can and can't do with that. So it's to be maintained as open space, but it could include tables and chairs and other, public amenities, which is a little broad, but that was the intent of it. And then area 2, less impactful. I think ultimately they contemplated maybe if a building was going to be abutting area 2, you could see some masonry or a wall there. There was a stairwell that maybe contemplated emptying out into that area, and then gutters, downspouts, and awnings could potentially protrude into that area, but no more than 3 feet. So really old, kind of outdated conditions that are on the property that were adopted for a very specific time and purpose, but ultimately were adopted in association with a development that never ended up coming to fruition. Our proposed zoning, as I mentioned, is that new CCN4 zone district. The max height that you're allowed is 57 feet, and then the max stories that you're allowed is 4 stories within that zone district. Again, the goal is to bring this property in line with the other properties that are to the north of 3rd Avenue that you see adjacent to the west of us and to the east of us. And then, it's important when we're looking at putting forth these proposals, we want to make sure we have strong plan support. Certainly we are, like zone district that we're proposing with our neighboring properties, but the site in question, you'll see that red arrow is pointing to, hopefully, was always identified as an area of change within the Cherry Creek area plan. And then from a height guidance standpoint, the 4-story zone district that we're looking to pursue, just like the others to the north of 3rd, were 4 stories as well within the Cherry Creek area plan from a guidance standpoint. And then lastly, as Dan alluded to earlier, they brought Austin and I on to make sure we're going to do a really robust community engagement effort on this rezoning process. This just gives you an idea of what we've done to date. And I want to keep in mind, all of this is done before we've even submitted the rezoning application. I think that's really important for us to do that before we submit that application, to make sure that we're gathering really good feedback, we're being good listeners, and we're working to incorporate it into the project. So the most important thing we can do is not only engaging Cherry Creek North Neighborhood Association and you all, but engaging with our adjacent neighbors. So we've provided, there's 7 townhomes that are to the north of us. We've provided each of those townhome owners with a personalized letter offering to meet and sit down and talk a little bit more about Nichols Partnership and their plans. And then Daniel's had multiple conversations with the townhome owner that is adjacent to the property to the north. So we're continuing to engage with that property owner because obviously they're closest to the new development. Sat down with Nick Lemasters in the bid on August 20th. We're here today in front of you all, working with Lou on finding a time to get in front of the Cherry Creek North Association Zoning Committee. And like we said, dialogue is going to be ongoing before we submit the rezoning application, which should happen here probably the next few weeks. And it'll certainly happen after the rezoning application is in and before we get to city council. So lastly, folks probably always ask and wonder about timing. Once we submit the rezoning application, process takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months to get in front of city council, as many as you know. So it just depends on how full the docket is or isn't, but I'd anticipate we'd probably be in front of council conservatively within 6 months or so. With that, I will stop, and I know Daniel and Randy and I are more than happy to answer any questions you all may have.
So I know that the Cherry Creek North Zoning Committee folks, this is the second go round where we've had a potential developer come to us. They had not acquired the property when they came to us before, so we're really excited that we have a local, well-respected developer who understands Cherry Creek, understands the neighborhood, and has already had the savvy to really have one-on-one conversations with the people to the north. So that's a terrific start. And are there any questions from anybody else in the group? Alan?
Randy, hi, welcome back to Cherry Creek. I'm curious as to what your program for the use of the site is.
Well, as some of you may have noticed, the real estate market's taking a beating. And we looked at the site and said, okay, what are the options here? Which the options would be apartments, office, condominiums, and retail. So I think the Clayton Lane site and the west end of the mall site have the apartment thing covered pretty well. Office buildings are doing well also because everybody's moving out of downtown and moving to Cherry Creek. But I think there's a little bit of a pause in the office market. And so that kind of leaves condominiums, which, there haven't been a lot of condominiums built, as you know. The North Creek project and then Clayton Lane project sort of introduced condominium ownership into the district, but then apartments were the darling because construction defects and other things like that sort of killed the condominium market. So we think that's overcomable, the legal problems that condominiums had. And we think with people my age moving out of their houses and into more of a lock and leave type of ownership for their home, this condominiums is the best way to go. Of course, retail will be on the ground floor to activate the street, but that's our plan. It'll be, it'll be. I don't want to say it's going to be similar to the Waldorf, because I know the design and architecture will be different. But Chris Shears has done a lot of work for us, and he's a terrific architect, and
Oh, Chris.
yeah, and he'll do something spectacular. So that's our plan.
Great. Thank you.
Randy, I wondered if the announcement about the Four Seasons residents would have any impact on your thought about the timing.
You know, I knew that that was coming. Chad Brew is a partner in that, told me that, it looks like they were going to do it. And Four Seasons is a formidable competitor in the condominium market. Every time they do a branded residential condominium, it does very well. But we're gonna try to compete at a little different level. If you look into the Four Seasons development, you find things like pricing is very high. HOA expenses are very high, and they're stocked with lots of amenities, and it's all it's a great value for people who have a lot of money, but there's a lot of people that don't want to pay $10,000 a month for HOA expenses and don't want to pay $3,000 a foot for a condominium. And really, Cherry Creek North is the amenity. Being able to walk to everything you could ever want is really what we're selling, the location, and we can do it at a lower price. I mean, it's not affordable housing by any means, but it's less expensive than the Waldorf and the Four Seasons, and the cost to operate are going to be much less expensive. So it's okay. I mean, there's enough to go around, I think. It's just like, every time a new apartment building went up, people would say, okay, well, is that enough apartments? Well, it still isn't enough apartments. They keep wanting to come to Cherry Creek, and having two new housing, ownership options, I think will be just fine.
Brandy, I know that you're in the very preliminary stages in your pro formas, but about how many square feet of commercial and how many square feet of residential are you looking at? I won't ask you the number of units because, that certainly can change. But I didn't really get a concept of the site. So, and I'm excited, I'm thrilled for you. I think you'll make a great addition to Cherry Creek North. So
Well,
way to go.
I'm excited to see you, Meredith. It's been a long, long time.
I
So,
actually moved south 4
oh, you
blocks.
did. Oh my God.
I'm now Miller's Park and I have a view.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we're in North Creek, and we don't have a view really. We have a view over Fillmore Plaza, but we've never left.
I always said I'd take Nordstrom over a Great View any day. So the proximity, in Cherry Creek, we really don't. I mean, there aren't a lot of places with great views. There certainly are some at the Laurel, but I think you're right. The amenity is this amazing neighborhood, and I think you will do great, Randy. I think there's a real need for maybe a condo building that maybe doesn't have all those amenities, but people spend half of their year someplace else, or they go back and forth, and they want to lock and leave, and they want a place that is still home. And there are a lot of big, townhomes and homes in Cherry Creek with lots of stairs. And I know a lot of people were ready to get rid of climbing so many stairs. So I agree. I brought that up only because I wanted to hear exactly what you said. And I thank you for what you said, because I think there's plenty of room and plenty of need for that. Are there
So-
any?
Well, I was hoping Randy could give the breakdown of square footage that he's like thinking about.
Well, Meredith, it means, there's a few moving parts here.
Mhm.
The site itself, we programmed that, and Daniel, you might be able to help, or Peter, if we just did the dance site, what we could put on that. You know, Daniel?
Yeah, it's only about probably a 40 to 45,000 square foot total gross building. So residential would be 28,000 square feet or something like that. And retail would probably be close to 10 to 15, maybe 10, closer to 10. So, much smaller for sure. But Dad, if you want to talk about the extension.
Randy or Daniel, the obvious question is, are you believe you'll be seeking relief from the pretty restrictive bulk plane considerations on that site?
No. I mean, we're intending to do exactly what is allowed. The best example of that is Third and, in terms of massing, is Third and Fillmore, the northeast corner. That's, that has the massing that we're looking for, and then it has all the step backs from the residential neighborhood to the north. And that's all required, and that's kind of what we intend to do. The only things that are different, I guess, about our site is that little green belt area that's really not a green belt area. It's more of a weed farm. That's on the north end of the site. And we've got some ideas for that, but that's coming later, and it will, I think, accomplish what we're planning, and will accomplish what the goal was, to provide a little buffer between the residential area and the other uses.
The conditions that created that awkward little spot have long since passed.
Yeah, well, I kind of agree. But we don't want to just kind of bulldoze in and say, okay, well, we're going to change everything. We're not trying to change much of anything unless some of these things that we're working on come together, and we can possibly expand the site. And I won't say much more than that, because it's not a reality yet, but we are in some conversations with adjacent neighbors, and there's a possibility that we could put together something a little more, a little bigger than what's there right now.
Well, welcome back to developing in Cherry Creek.
Yeah, well,
It
I love
hasn't gotten
it.
much easier.
Well, I'm sure you've been around to, make sure that nobody screws the place up for the last 30 years, right, Alan?
Well, we've just tried to
We
keep it
hope,
honest.
we hope.
Great. Are there any other questions? I know that we'll get these folks back. So if there aren't any other questions, thank you again, Randy and team. And we'll look forward to meeting with you. Let us know when you want me to schedule that zoning meeting. And we'll get that going, and then move on from there. So are there any other issues or anything people want to talk about?
Well, I was going to say real quick, Bob and Alan and Meredith and whoever else had any questions, we're always open for a phone call or an email. So any additional questions you have at all, we're happy to answer it whenever, wherever. So don't be afraid to give us a phone call.
I've also got to say, welcome back to Chris. I'm glad to see he's back with you.
We
Yeah,
are too.
you and me both. For those of you who don't know, one of the longest term employees at our company, Chris Crosby, the guy who built Clayton Lane and who built Spire and several other major projects. He was in Napa for the last 8 years working on a development out there, and he just moved back 2 weeks ago to work in Denver on kind of the next stage of our company life cycle.
Great.
Okay, well, that's fabulous. All right, everyone, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll end a little bit early. Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for the presentations. We will put out an agenda if anybody has any updates, maybe Stuart and Richard, and we could talk about maybe next month, talking a little bit about the transit study, if you're ready to do that, Stuart, at that point. So just a teaser about that. Stuart and Richard have been working on some information about employee parking in the bid. Very, very important. And the transit issues around that. Is that fair, Stuart? So Richard, did
happy
you want
to.
to say anything about that?
No, we'd be happy to share that with the group. So we'll put that on the agenda for next month.
Okay, so look for that in October, and thank you all for being here. Good
Thank
night.
you all.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lou.
Lou.